friends, it's Christy. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be making a card using the Lawn Fawn Totally Awesome and Rub-a-Dub-Dub stamp sets. And I'm going to be watercoloring with my Zig Clean Color Real Brush markers. So I've stamped my images on some Bristol Smooth Surface cardstock with VersaFine Onyx Black ink. And then I did put a layer of clear embossing powder over that and heat set it. And I'm going to start coloring these three little ducks. I'm using shade 050 yellow for all three of them, and I'm just going to color them one at a time so that the ink doesn't seep into the paper too much before I get to blend it. But I'm just adding shading down their backs and then blending towards the front of their body with a little clean, clear water. I'm imagining that my light source is right overhead, so I'm just shading everything in the direction that they're facing. So the highlight will be on their faces and the shadows will be down the back. For their beaks and feet, I'm using number 070 orange, just adding a little bit of color there and then blending it out. And I'm doing three at once since they're so small and it really takes no time at all, so there's no chance for that ink to kind of dry into the paper. And then once I have their beaks done, I'll go and do their little feet. And again, they're so tiny, even smaller than their beaks actually, so it takes a tiny little touch of water on your brush to blend those out. For the fallen log, I'm using number 065 mid brown. I'm going to put it on darker down at the bottom for the shadows and then just a few swipes here and there since it is wood and it's going to have, you know, some different texture and grain to it. So I'm going to blend upward with my clean clear water because I want to have a little bit of a highlight at the top where the sun would be hitting, but just kind of a mixed mottled color is what I'm going for here. I did get a little bit outside the lines down at the bottom. Normally I would clean it up a little bit better than I did. I just used a paper towel and blotted up the extra color because I knew that the log was going to get tucked behind some grass and you wouldn't even see that once it's die cut. So I will also keep that color for the cattails. I'm just adding a little bit of color down to the bottom, knowing that some will be going on the right hand side and some on the left. I did the shading, you know, from side to side there, and then just blending upward again with that clean clear water. For the cattail grasses, I'm using 044 deep green, just shading from the bottom upward and also where some of the grasses have some that are overlapping, so just making sure to cast a little shadow there. And then I just did half at a time so that, again, that ink didn't have time to settle into the paper. It does help to use the Bristol Smooth Surface that has the nice vellum coating on it so that the ink is kind of held away from the fibers of the papers for a little bit so you have more time to blend. And the paintbrush that I'm using is a number 2 round from the Silver Black Velvet Company, so it has that super fine tip that gets in all those little places. I'll use number 082 purple for my first dragonfly, number 080 violet for the second, and number 032 Persian blue for the last one. And since those were so small, I could get away with just doing them all at once. Then I'll grab my paintbrush and just blend those out towards the edges. I made sure to put the color concentrated in the center towards the body so I could have that nice highlight on the wings so they would look almost transparent. So I've die cut 2 panels using the Lawn Fawn Shadow Box card die, and then I die cut a window out of one of them using the rectangle that's included in that set. And I'm going to set that front panel aside and go ahead and stamp my sentiment on the back of the back panel. It's a lot easier to do when it's still nice and flat before you assemble. So I'm using Lawn Fawn Merman ink for that. And I'm using the sentiment that says, "It's your day, relax and enjoy." And then I also included a little dragonfly and the little trail back behind there. And now I can go ahead and start to assemble. So I've added some score tape to the 2 flaps. And I'm just going to peel off the backer paper on that. And then I can line those up nice and straight using the grid on my mat and fold that tab over. And before I assemble the other side, I'm going to add my inserts and my backer. So I die cut a piece of grass using the Lawn Fawn meadow borders, and I want to line the back panel with that. So I just added a little more score tape, and I'm just going to line that up within the folds and press that down into place. And then I've got a piece of blue cardstock and a piece of green die cut with the inserts that are included. I've added score tape to the tabs on both of those little panels, and I like to use score tape for this kind of assembly because there's no drying time like there would be with liquid glue. So I'm going to put the blue panel about 2/3 of the way back from the front, and then the green panel about 1/3 of the way back. Then I'll fold those down and line them up with the bottom edge of the shadow box card, peel off the remaining release papers, and then I can close the left side flap right over top of those so it can pick up those. Just press it down firmly so it grabs that tape. Then I'll peel off the release paper from the last tab and line the front piece up with that and press that firmly into place. And there we go. It's that easy to create a shadow box card. I'm going to fold that a couple of times just to get that moving nicely, since this does fit inside a standard size envelope, so you can definitely mail it. And then I'll stand it up and continue on with the decorations. So I've cut down 2 pieces of pattern paper from the Perfectly Plaid Spring 6x6, and then I've die cut those with the included dies so that I can do a little bit of decoration on the sides there. Again, using score tape since I already had it out, and it just makes it nice and easy. So I'll just line that up in the center and then pop that down into place. And that's how it's coming together now. You have the 2 sides decorated and then the sentiment on the back. I am going to use a little liquid glue to adhere my fallen log, and that's because I wanted to tuck it back behind that grass, and so it just made it nice and easy to slip back there. For the rest of the images, I'll be using mini glue dots, and so I can just add those to either the front or the back of the image, depending on where it's going on the panels. So like for that first cattail, I actually put it on the front of the image down at the bottom, so that it would stick to the front of that window frame. I'm doing the same with this one that's going on the left. I'll add the last of my large cattails right behind that first grassy hill, and just make sure it's stepped out a little bit to the side of the front one so that it adds a little depth to the scene. And then I'll add a smaller one over on the right doing the same exact thing. And the last one I'm going to add growing right out of the pond there. And then I've got 2 of these little grass clusters, so I'll add one to the front left right next to that cattail to kind of add some thickness there. And then I'll add the other one next to the cattail in the back right. Again, just trying to create some more depth in the scene. Then I'll add a glue dot to the back of my first duck and add him so he's walking along the front of that bank. The second little duck, I'm going to add a glue dot to the front of him and add him so that it looks like he's swimming. So I'll tuck him behind the blue panel, kind of over by the cattails and the grasses there. And then my last little duck, I'm going to add the glue dot to the back of him and stick him right in front of that fallen log on the far side of the pond or the riverbank. And then he's going to be looking at some dragonflies. So I'm going to add 2 to that back panel. And then the third one I'm actually going to add way up front to the front of the window frame. Just to, again, you know, create that illusion that the scene is going on and on. So it just has a little bit of variety of different elements kind of layered in different, you know, depths. I decided that back panel was missing something, so I'm going to peel up that pink dragonfly, and those glue dots adhere pretty well. It's going to tear the cardstock a little bit, but that's fine because I'm going to cover that up completely. I'm going to use the smallest of the clouds in the Spring Showers die set, and then I'll add a fresh glue dot to the back of that dragonfly and pop her right back into place. And that is going to complete our shadow box card. I considered adding a sentiment to the front as well, but I thought it was going to cover up too much of the scene, so I just left it with the one on the back there. And I think it came out super cute. This was really fun to make. It was my first time making a shadow box card, but I really enjoyed it, and I can definitely see making more of these in the future. If you enjoyed the video, please be sure to give it a big thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I would love to have you. Here's 2 more videos you may also be interested in, and hopefully those will tide you over until my next one. Until then, I hope you all have an amazing day. Bye-bye.